Hey people, it's your boy Cursed Curator with.
Ados.
There we go. One second. I'm gonna put our socials in the thing again. Yay!
Hell yeah.
You can tell people what we're doing today.
Yes, today we are moving on with the timeline and we are talking about the early 1900s, which largely are very similar to the 1890s, but you can see towards the back end we are getting towards the prime silent era, which I would say primarily is the 1910s and the 1920s, obviously. Um, for those at home, the silent era, for those of you who don't know and need to know for when films actually have sound, because I know a lot of people cannot do silent movies, understandably, is going to be from obviously the beginning of film in 1888 or 1886, depending on how you count it, to 1927 is really the last year of silent film before sound films become the majority.
Okay. So people, I just put in mine and 8Oz's socials. So check out his music. Some good shit, dude.
Keeps shilling my music, man.
Hell yeah. So I am not in the best condition, and I wasn't able to watch everything, but I do have my notes still, so everything will be good.
To be fair, the two major things that you missed are not super hard to cover just by describing them,
Mm-hmm.
and the ones that are not, I did not mark as essential are more so funny than anything else.
Lovely.
Uh, I also do not expect you to give a singular fuck about the films of Mr. Chamon, which is the other French filmmaker that nobody remembers.
Today's schedule is well, of course, first and foremost the movies, and then we'll talk about some more of the games of the early 1900s, between 1900 and 1909. And well, our schedule is a bit open after that. We can probably get in some Mario Kart if we feel like doing it.
Our most recent hyperfixation.
I'm gonna fucking critique these damn maps. It's my whole goal in my life.
We are slowly becoming little media critics. I've already kind of gotten there, unfortunately. I'm becoming a pretentious film bro. We'll get there when I get to the 30s.
I can't wait to figure out how loud the damn game's gonna be over the stream.
Oh god. Hey guys, we're gonna play some Mario Kart. Uh,
Okay, so let's hop into the very first movie, and let me get my map stuff up. Oh, that map, what the hell? Bluebeard!
yes, so this is actually a pretty important film. I marked it as being one of the first films to have an actual cohesive plot to it, and I would say that that's still a pretty accurate statement. I
Hmm.
think its plot is very loose, as you would imagine from something this early. I think it's okay. It's probably my least favorite of Méliès's bigger films. Though it does have that iconic shot, or iconic for the early 1900s, of a woman stumbling into a house filled with dead people, which kind of comes out of nowhere.
um, so for me, it had an interesting plot of a woman seemingly for. So what I gathered is that she was forced to marry Bluebeard, as my guess here, and eventually she would learn the truth of those who married him like prior or were suitors eventually. And she ended up being rescued from the fate she would have suffered. That was my whole what I gathered from this.
I'm going to be honest, these early silent films, I have a lot of trouble figuring out what the plots are about. Uh, I think Yeah, no, I'm looking up. It's based on a play, and you have it exactly right.
Let's go. We stay on those.
So I can tell if I don't understand a film, you're going to be the one to go to. It's a very dark story for such an era of very light-hearted stories, in my opinion.
hmm
There's not a lot to say about it. Do you feel comfortable rating films from this era, or are you still in the camp of like that I'm in, which is that these are still a little too primitive?
I feel like they're a little more primitive, but at least in the case where the ones where there's actually a story being told, I will rate it. This still in the state of that it has an actually story and actually talk about. And I'm gonna give a story. You know, mind you, again, just remember this. It's still grandfathered in, but story wise, for its time, the storytelling was a solid 6 to me.
Yeah, I think this is an important time to kind of touch on our rating systems. So for me, I rate everything mostly relative to its period. So a 10 out of 10 from, let's say, this year, 1901, is going to be a lot different than a 10 out of 10 from this year, 2024. Ooh, I just dated this stream. Uh, Current year, boys. But I think this is definitely like a 6 or a 7 for me. I think as far as other films go, it is hugely innovative, but it is very difficult to watch now, which is the other part of how I rate things. I rate them, excuse me, relative to their period, but in terms of modern enjoyment.
How I do it is relatively similar to how he's doing it. Uh, I will not hold a movie from back then the same cadence as a movie from now, even though I'm gonna be real, some of these movies are kind of superior to the modern day ones to a degree.
There's a certain level of freedom and creative expression that you just don't see. There's a certain level of carelessness that is really charming.
Yeah.
Uh,
um, Only one last comment on this is that I loved the actors' clothes. It was really interesting.
The costumes were very elaborate, which is something Millier is very famous for, and we'll see in some of his other films. This he has these amazing, beautiful costumes that really evoke the mood and the style that he's going for, and I find that really nice.
Okay.
Uh,
Our next one up is the Big Swallow, I believe.
this is one of those American short skits. Essentially, it is a guy swallowing the cameraman, and then you get to see the cameraman being swallowed. My big note for this is that it is one of the first subversive film techniques, specifically the idea of showing the theatrics. A great example is if you've ever seen a movie that's depicting a play and then they pull out to show you the play being assembled or produced. That is a subversive film technique in order to show you that you are watching something that has been created, not something that is happening.
Gotcha. I will give a slight correction, and this is a UK film, not American.
Oh my goodness, did I mark that correct? It's marked as UK
Yeah,
on my.
you said American. I'm like, this is UK.
Oh, did I say American?
Yeah.
I should have American styled. There
um,
we go.
so for me, it was just interesting to do the technique, and how they showed it of her just swallowing. It's very, very primitive, but it had some very cool results for the time, I imagine.
It is a very cool effect. The man's teeth are disgusting,
They are.
um, though he is British.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that never changed.
The one stereotype that has lived on. I barely remember our next film, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves.
um, the only thing I can really say about this film is that, golly, they spent a lot of time to painstakingly hand color each and every damn thing.
Yes, so this is one of those early color films. And for those who don't know, I don't think we mentioned it last episode. They didn't color films in the way that we understand with, say, Technicolor, or obviously they didn't have electronics to do post processing colorization. What they did have was having several people hand dye the film strips frame by frame. And not only did they have to do it frame by frame, you couldn't copy films that had been colored. So each copy had to be painted by hand.
Woo. There is
Uh,
a topic we will eventually get to. It's be a bit later in the future, around the 80s or 90s. There is a fellow who'll be very important to not only film but to lights in general with the LEDs. He's a very important fellow. He's Japanese, I believe.
I believe you're correct. LEDs are going to be a huge innovation, but it is going to be probably literal years before we get to that point,
Yeah,
but we will
he
see.
invented the blue LED. If you're curious,
Interesting.
yeah, it was the one that we could never do for some reason. There was this. It was so hard to make.
I assume because it's a very cold color and
Yes.
it's a lot easier to make warmer colors.
And as you know, to get the entire spectrum, for what a human can see, you need blue. With no blue, you can't have green lights, for example.
Something we'll actually be talking about in just a few, depending on how we pace
Hmm.
the series, is we're going to be seeing the birth of Technicolor in the very late 20s,
Ooh,
which I believe did not have blue. It was just green and red originally, which sounds awful, and I've seen it, and it is awful.
I will give a congratulations to the actors for this film because this, I believe, this is the first film we've seen that has had so many actors. It has a
The amount of
lot.
extras is insane.
Yes.
I guess it is called And the 40 Thieves.
Yeah. The next one, A Trip to the Moon. I have so many comments. Well, first and foremost, we would see the return of the astronomers with wizard hats.
Millier and his wizard hats.
We would also
Uh,
see a lot of reusing of old background materials and props in this.
Yeah, it's funny you notice that if people who've only watched A Trip to the Moon, mostly people who've had to watch it for a film class, wouldn't realize Villiers was a big fan of reusing props,
Yeah.
hence the wizard hats. But
Well,
I love this film. I don't know about you.
I liked it. It was interesting enough. It drew me in. It was neat. What else I can say is that the moon is still creepy as fuck. This very important note. Just think about this for a second, Oz. People were, people in 1902 saw this fucking movie, but the moon landing itself was in 1969. Was people were still alive to see both of these damn things.
It is crazy to think that someone made a sci-fi film, Millier made a sci-fi film, what, 50, 60 years before we knew anything about astronomy.
Woo!
I mean, we knew some things, but like very little.
Yeah. One thing I do like is that this is the first film, which I'm surprised you didn't note it down, is to have full-on aliens.
Yes, so I should cover the plot of this really quickly for anyone. Most people probably haven't seen this film. The plot is a bunch of astronomers look at the moon and go, "Hey, I want to go to the moon," and they go there, and there are aliens, and they kidnap them and take them back because imperialism.
um, Aliens just hop around a lot and they're aggressive. It's A for effort, but most mid first ever aliens ever.
Their costumes are strange. I think that is the best way to describe it. They have very strange costumes. Though I suppose in this period our understanding or even our media regarding aliens was probably very slim.
Yeah. The next film is something that would make people sad, but not me. The little match seller. It's here's what I see wrote down. Now, if my heart wasn't so cold, I'd shed a tear for this one. This film is a quite sad one, especially because we would see the slow descent of a little girl's mind due to what I imagine is hyperthermia, and then her
Yes.
demise. The police officer shines a light upon her corpse. Modern film should take damn notes. We should see more dead kids in our films. Oh wait, hold on now.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a political stance I want to take, honestly. You really want to die on that hillside there?
I died a lot of hills. I'm here for it.
Fair. So the plot of this is that there's a little girl who's a match seller. She's not doing too well, clearly, and she starts burning her matches to and kind of hallucinating slash fantasizing about the life she wished she had, while slowly dying of hypothermia.
Yeah.
Uh, it is the feel bad film of the decade.
Yep. I do have a fun fact though, because this was written by H.C. Anderson. If you're curious, this the story would predate this film by quite a large margin because it was first written in 1845, and this guy died in 1878. So I imagine the his family members would sell the rights to the film or just give out the rights so the filmmaker would use it. I'm not sure how that went out, but yeah, that's what happened.
I also am suspicious if copyright was in a place where they even bought the rights.
Yeah, it was different times because this fucking did that shit. Nobody would have questioned it.
Remember, Nosferatu was an unlicensed film, and I mean, that's 20 years from now, but it's relatively close.
I'm not sure how
Uh,
close the book is to the actual movie though. Uh,
Considering the movie is what under 5 minutes.
Yeah, and again, I don't know how long the actual book was either. The book would have been freaking huge. Um, it doesn't.
Imagine adapting a 400-page novel into a 5-minute film.
Well, so what is very true is that it's still about a kid dying. So that part is still real. Um,
Yes, a book I very much want to buy. Of
so if you would like to hear a bit of a description of the book, it does seem to be
course.
it seems to be a bit of a one for one from between a book and a movie. Is on a freezing New Year's Eve, a poor young girl, frozen, shivering, and bareheaded and barefoot, would unsuccessfully try to sell matches in the streets. Afraid to go home because her father would beat her for failing to sell any matches and not earning even a single penny. She hustles in an alley between two houses and light matches one by one to warm herself. In the flames of the matches, she sees a series of comforting visions, a warm iron stove, basically, all the same stuff that, we would see. When the matches are all gone, she would freeze to death. And her grandmother would carry her soul to heaven. But in the movie, I recall it's an angel that carries her, not a grandmother. I could be wrong with it, though.
The angel could be her grandmother, perhaps, but I did notice when you were reading the descriptions, like, hey, that's not what happens in the film.
If you're curious, this book has been adapted into a lot of things, actually. Oh, jeez! A lot of anime has adapted this story.
Why anime?
There are at least 20 things from anime that has adapted this.
That seems excessive.
In the Fable, wow, the Fables. The Fable comic would also include the little match girl.
That is strange.
Interesting.
I wonder if the story caught on in Japan for some reason. Oh, uh, let's talk about another huge film. Since we touched on A Trip to the Moon, The
Yeah.
Great Train Robbery. Oh my god, I
Yes.
love this movie.
Ooh, mm. So let me be autistic for a second here. I have to be very autistic real fast. So, um, the train, the beauty that we see, very first thing we see outside of people that are irrelevant to me, and they're so useless. We would see the beautiful 440 steam engine just zip by. Um,
It is a To be fair, it is the most it is a very like Wild West looking train. Little fun fact. Um I'd like to mention this isn't a period film. The Wild West is still very much happening,
yup.
which is just wild.
So the plot is something that I thought it was interesting, but mind you, Wild West stories, even though it's still the Wild West, they don't exactly appeal to me too much because I've seen it all already. It almost always is the same thing. It's a heist, a train robbery, the same old shindig generally, or it's a new sheriff in town and he has to stop the bad guy. It's just usually the same shit. Um,
We're going to see this a lot as we go through. There's a lot of films that at the time were incredibly innovative, but because of modern tropes can be a little bit tiresome to watch because to the creators this is all new and they don't have to justify it. To us, we've seen a million westerns and we know where this
yup.
is going.
So beyond the plot, this film would make huge waves. Robert primarily due to a one person aiming his gun at the camera, and
They
my
did that in Goodfellas as a really deep cut reference.
yup. Quite a few other notable things would pay homage to this. For example, our boy James Bond would also pay homage to this plenty of times.
Yes, I do wonder if that's intentional or if it's coincidental, but it seems intentional.
Yes, but the final information here that's very important to note is that the actor who aimed the gun at the camera would go on to do a lot more films, but eventually he would retire and become a milkman.
That is, oh yeah, I forgot. This is a time before celebrities. Another like really important cultural thing as we're getting closer to modern, well, not modern Hollywood, but Hollywood,
Yeah.
is there are no celebrities really at this point. We're starting to see them kind of come into existence, but they really aren't a thing yet. So actors are just workers like everybody else.
Yeah. Um, our next lovely film is The Impossible Voyage, and I had to mention this because or this is our boy Millier again, and he likes to reuse damn things. But train is a 440 steam engine again. I'll mention that.
Fair. Oh, I did want to. I had a few more notes for
Yeah,
The
go
Great
to
Trade Robbery. Yeah, this is an incredibly important film because, well, the trip to the moon established film and longer film for the French in Europe. It did have some appeal in America. I think the Great Train Robbery really kicks off what kind of would become more iconic about American film opposed to French film, at least in the early days, right? It's grittier, it's violent.
it.
Uh, it's oh, that final chase scene at the end of the film where the horsemen are just like they're chasing each other and the robbers are trying to get away. It's wonderful. I do think it's hilarious that are still in that very early stages of entertainment where there are no safety regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure in the scene where you see one of the guys get shot off his horse, the dude actually falls off of his horse. He just eats it. And we're gonna see a lot of that, like, oh my god, is he okay? The answer is most of the time no.
um,
Though
mhm.
oh yes, yes, we can get to the Impossible Voyage, which is a very
I
weird film.
that's the thing to note that's very important that the Koreans did this one is that they would make an adaptation to the Little Match Girl. I'm sorry, I got to it. I'm like, wait, what? It's called a resurrection of the Little Match Girl.
It's a sequel?
Yes, yes, it is.
No, 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 we can't move on. What the fuck? Why is there a sequel to The Little Match Seller made, what, 100 years later?
Well over 100 years.
That's like making a sequel to Macbeth.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. So when did Little Match Girl come out again? It was like 1903.
The film came out in 1903, I believe.
So this film, this quote sequel, will be released 99 years later. So not 100 years later.
Hey, it counts.
Finally, but you'll question why the entire cast is now Asian and not white. It's the first DIE,
It's
DEI,
a,
whatever.
it's our first race swapping.
Let's go, our first racial swap. Wait on now.
Yeah, that's. I don't think that's something I want to celebrate. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I can't wait to get to this. Yeah, I can't. Anyway, we can cover this at some point.
So if we ever get a viewer base, like a proper viewer base, please remind us to put this film on our list because that will be hilarious.
It includes StarCraft. It has StarCraft in the fucking movie, the fucking game.
This is going to be an anomaly. I need to know everything about this when it gets there.
Okay, let's get to the Possible Voyage.
No, I no, it's a fair tangent to go on.
I love
I
that shit.
think oh, it's wonderful. The Impossible Voyage. If a trip to the moon is astronomers going to the moon, Millier decided to jump the shark. And hey, what about the sun? No one asked.
So my notes for this one is very short because when I was in the haze of my fever, and I'm like, this is my notes. But this film uses multiple modes of transportation to get to the damn sun, which has a horrifying face. They use the fucking train to go to this fucking sun. The fucking sun. That is all.
That is, I didn't think about that because again, science obviously has been a thing for a while, but our understanding of the world is, let's say, limited. And so I'm sure to Millier, sure, a train could go to the sun. It's a really advanced train.
It was so stupid. It was so
I,
stupid.
the aliens in this one are glorious, by the way.
It was so stupid. I fucking felt better for my sickness.
I I think this one is weaker than A Trip to the Moon, but if you like that and you like the weird early 1900s wackiness, then it's fun.
Yeah. Um. Of course, when moderns like seeing this, I'm like, wow, y'all are really fucking stupid. But then
I
I'm
mean,
like,
I can't blame them too much because it was more ignorance than anything, but yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry. Just seeing a giant ball of fucking fire in the sky, I'm like, yeah, I want to go to that.
I'm going to not only go there, I'm going to walk on it basically in normal clothes because we don't know how space works yet.
We do not. And you see these people just wearing regular clothes. I'm like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's so strange. If I were to give it a rating, I think I would give like firstly a trip to the moon maybe a 9. It's almost a 10. Just going through the Great Train Robbery, in my opinion, is 100% a 10. How do you feel about it?
So with the Great Train Robbery, of course, I take off my glasses of being I'm a modern person, and I think in respect that it deserves, it is a 10. But at the same time, putting back my glasses, I believe it's from a modern perspective, it's an 8, maybe, and that's I'm being generous because of the train.
Yeah, the train did definitely influenced their rating. I I can agree with that. I think overall, out of everything we watched, it's probably my favorite film. If you couldn't tell by how excited I got from it.
Yeah, the Impossible Voyage though. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know
It's
if
like a
I
6.
don't know if I can take off my damn glasses and say, yeah, this is a banger. It's like a 6 or a 5. Like on a really good day, I'm like on a very good mood when I'm watching it.
Yeah, and not ill.
Yeah,
Next one we have. This is just a funny little skit. It's the Untamable Whiskers.
I liked this one. It was very so though. I'm like, okay, is this about it's about a film about some guy who draws shit and it happens in his face, in his body or whatever.
This is very similar to a film, the an animation film that we'll be talking about a little bit later. So, similar concept. It's just a little skit. It's fine. It doesn't need a rating.
Yeah. The next one is Rescued by Rover, which I'm be real.
This was adorable.
I'm be real. For the film itself, I wasn't impressed, but the thing that impressed me the most was the animal handling here. Is that this animal had to be corralled around to ensure that he would do exactly what was required, which I liked. That it showed that this animal is disciplined. It did what it had to do, and it did it well. You also notice that this animal, this dog here, resembles Lassie a bit.
This film was wild. This is like the first smash hit in Britain.
Hmm.
Uh, the film was hugely popular. There's a few stories about how popular this film was. It was so popular they had to reshoot it, I believe, 3 times because they kept wearing out the negatives by copying it so much. In addition, the film single-handedly popularized the name Rover for dogs.
I was guessing that's where it came from. I'm like, where did this freaking name come from? It's such a mid-tier name for a doggy.
Yeah, and as well, the film was made on a budget of, I believe, like $10 at the time, which is a little bit more than it is today, but that's like a shoestring indie budget. That's like catering, basically. That's like getting lunch for the boys money.
It's my fucking job. I do that on the fucking weekend.
Yeah, right? And it made them back their money. There were so many sequels. The film was stupidly successful, as you can tell from these wild stories about how the film did. I think I think it's understandable. Also, yes, Rover is the couple who made the film. It was literally like the man in the film, I believe, is the filmmaker. His
Hmm.
wife is playing his wife. His kid is actually his kid. And the dog is just his dog.
I kind of like that. It feels in a way like a now. Don't get me wrong here. Like an actuality film to a degree.
In a way, yeah, it's very genuine. I obviously it's not an actuality, but I
Yeah.
get what you mean. It has that idea to it. I think for me, what it feels like is it reminds me of when I used to be an indie film. It's a work of passion. It's very obvious they were not intending for this film to become a huge success. It was just, you know, let's make a movie. And some people decide to get busy on camera. Some people decide to film their dog pretending to save their kid. And I can vibe with that.
That was a good thing to vibe to.
Overall, I'll give it like an 8. It was good. I like it. It was wholesome.
Yeah, it was something that to me, it's yeah. For me, it's 7.5, close to an 8. The only reason why is because I feel like that whatever try like Was there really a true plot here other than protect the damn kid? Those kind of stories to me don't really. Eh, eh.
The plot reminds me a lot of old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, where it's just a subject rather than a plot.
Yeah. Also, please tell me that I'm not imagining things, and so don't show this at all. Is that what I think it is?
1 second. I don't want to think about that. Anyways,
Oh man.
moving on. Uh, more backstage
The
discoveries.
whole damn family and the damn dog.
This is an Edison film, as you might be able to guess.
I really tell me about this one.
So this is, God, it almost feels like a weird precursor to the Addams Family. It's very strange. It is essentially a bunch of portraits of this kind of over dramatized weird family called the Dam family, DAM. And there's like a dad who smokes too much, I think, a little girl who chews her bubblegum far past the point that is reasonable, and there's a dog. It's just kind of a cute, like, hey, look at this kooky, wacky family, which, again, like I said, reminds me much of the Addams family.
You know, it would be a neat little thing to do one day is to put our own take on these films and how we would have done them to their weird little plots.
Yes, I think, especially as we get to films that are more, for frankly, interesting to interpret, because the whole damn family and the damn dog is not super. There's not a lot you could do with it, right?
Oh no, man! I feel like my autism. I can do something with this. I can work with this. I can work with this. I got
Fair.
ideas.
And there's also a scene at the very end when they show everyone's portrait where they all sit down at the dinner table and act all wacky.
One thing I do think we can do something with like pretty heavily is the little match girl. I hate saying her repeatedly, but it's so damn good. It actually hits. I want to watch it again later.
Fair. No, I think that's fair because it is a very it's different, right? I
Yeah,
think something we're both going to relate to. It's something that I've really found interesting and really wasn't expecting when I got into this is that I tend to like the films that aren't necessarily very good but are different.
yeah,
Because when you watch, for instance, I'm in the 30s, when you watch literally 100 melodramas, when you find a shitty adventure film, it's nice. It's different, you know?
yeah. I truly do love some of these films. Like thus far. Our next one is the humorous faces of funny faces. Which heads up, people. I didn't. The movies we're all mentioning now. I've not watched. This is purely Oz territory.
Yes, this is the pseudo. It's time for the pseudo historian with half the credibility. Uh, I think. I see. I was just thinking. Uh, this is considered widely the first animation. This is a film where a guy draws on a board with some chalk, I believe, and they come alive and they do silly animated stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, it's very simple. As the first animated film, it really accentuates what I feel animation is good for, which is there isn't really a plot, there isn't really anything deep going on, but it's a spectacle. It's interesting to look at. Uh, I think personally, I think this is pretty rough, and if you learn about the early history of animation, which I can talk about a little bit, essentially, modern animation, or rather, modern as in 50s, 60s, what most people think of when they think of animation techniques, they think of uh, they think of sorry, cell animation, where you have like these vignettes that you layer on top of each other. I believe that was mostly thanks to Walt Disney. Before that, artists had to draw every part of every frame. As you can imagine, this was incredibly time consuming, meaning animation was expensive and largely not very profitable.
Yeah.
until Disney figures out, there's got to be a way to make this not suck. So this is one of those early animations, and it's very simple as a result
Oh,
to keep costs down.
wow! I just noticed we actually have somebody that commented in the chat. I'm so sorry. This is from Kizzy Kari. I only know of a Trip of the Moon because I of a newer movie called Hugo. I'm curious to see your thoughts on that movie.
Oh, Hugo, yes. Interesting. I that's fair. Hugo is actually based on roughly on the life of Millier, though I don't think they use his name specifically. I haven't seen it, but it does look very interesting, and I think it does show a lot of how early films worked and how weird it was.
Okay. Sorry for not getting back to you there, fella. Ooh.
Yeah. Um, what do we have next on here? The Motorist. This is a silly skit where someone essentially rides a bicycle into space and then crashes back down, I believe. I don't remember this film very well. It wasn't that interesting. I wish I could say it was some life transforming thing, but it wasn't. It's okay. I really was not impressed by it. Though any film from this period is impressive because it exists. The next couple I have on my list, Music Forward and The Cigar Box, and Phantasmagory, are all Chamon films. I believe that's how you say his name. It's Chomom, I think. He's that other French filmmaker. I just wanted to be inclusive and list everything that I saw and watched for this period. The next one, this one is actually interesting. This is the Airship Destroyer.
Ooh.
Uh, this is I believe this is a film. Again, it's my memory's a little hazy on some of these because I've watched so many of them. I had to watch 200 of these movies for these first two episodes. Uh, it was pain. Uh, it's a film where a guy invents a super zeppelin, essentially.
I'm fucking sorry. Is that a German film?
No, it's American.
Okay, so you're telling yeah, I feel my gut. Some German came over to America and said, "Hey, yo, Super Zeppelin. People would love that shit," and we would, by the way. We would love that.
Yeah, it's about a guy who makes a super warship. Uh, I do not remember what happens.
You know,
I watched this film like 2 days ago.
this this is weird to
It's
say.
hard.
I feel like that movie may have predicted the Super Zeppelin that would eventually happen. Because you know, the World War, the first one, would it see the Zeppelins be used widely?
That is true. In this era, we don't actually see zeppelins being used in warfare, so that it could be seen as that, and I wouldn't doubt it at all. We only have a couple more.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
Golden Lewis and the Invisible Thief. Is
yes,
that
the
a
Golden
parody?
Lewis is a from a filmmaker that we will be seeing a lot of next episode, like almost exclusively.
Ooh.
We have to talk about him. This is directed by a very young D.W. Griffith. Griffith is a controversial figure because, on one hand, he is the single most influential film director in America, at least if you count historically speaking. He made the first American feature film and was only a year off from being the first feature film in general. He might have only been a couple of months.
Hmm.
So Griffith has that under his belt. He was one of the founders of United Artists, which was
Ooh.
Charlie Chaplin's studio.
Oh,
He was a huge figure in this time, and going forward, Griffith is going to only get bigger. Though I think he's still relatively obscure at the moment. The
gotcha.
controversial side goes from his feature length film is Birth of a Nation, which we'll talk about a lot next episode. But
Okay.
suffice it to say, Griffith made a film about the KKK being the protagonist.
Okay.
Yeah, and I want to make it very clear, don't ban me, Twitch. We do not support any of these ideas.
Yeah, I'm half black,
Griffith,
so I'm cool.
yeah, You get the pass for this. I don't. Griffith was an extremist. I'm pretty sure even people from his period, a la H.P. Lovecraft, were like, "Hey, dude, cool it." Uh, he's a very controversial figure in film, though I do respect his filmmaking prowess, and that's
I'm
about it.
I'm glad you mentioned United Artists because they're so of course they're still around like during this time period. Their downfall would sadden me greatly. It would be the greatest loss for American movies ever, in my opinion. That's the greatest loss.
Yes, that and RKO. So
Yeah.
yeah, United Artists, the filmmakers are starting to come around, but United Artists doesn't become a thing until the 20s, I believe, the mid 20s.
Yes. Um,
So we're starting to see those filmmakers come into fruition, though.
I'm trying to remember what calls the direct. Of course, we'll get to it more later when we'll see the downfall of United Artists. But I believe Disney had a small hand in their ultimate collapse, which is funny to think about.
If you look at the we'll get into it more, but in my opinion, the downfall of United Artists was down to the people who were running it.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, what was happening in the late 20s? We're getting to the end of an era, right? All the
Yeah.
old talent starting to die off. And who do we have at the head of United Artists? We have Charlie Chaplin, the man who famously took 7 years to get with the sound revolution. Griffith, a man who had bomb after bomb after bomb in the 20s. And a couple other artists. I believe Buster Keaton, in fact, was a member of United Artists. And he ended up signing with, I believe, MGM.
When did United Artists go? Oh, okay, so so United Artists would go defunct in 2019, but let's be real, United Artists, as we knew them, would be dead much earlier than that.
I would say by the 40s, they're pretty much no longer a thing.
Their corpse was being macerated by Amazon.
Yeah. So I we'll have to do more research to see when the actual date of a
Yeah.
defunct happens. But back to Griffith and this film. This film is purely okay. You see a lot of Griffith's signature style coming into place.
Hmm.
Griffith as a director is glacial. He's very slow, he's very meticulous, he's very emotion driven. You see that in all of his films. He puts a large emphasis on how characters react to things, right? A thing happens and we'll spend an equal amount of time focusing on how an actor is emotionally dealing with whatever is happening. We see that, we see a lot of his very dramatic styling, though this is a very much a proto Griffith film. And the last film we're going to talk about, we're not going to talk about it very much, is The Invisible Thief, which I am 90% sure inspired The Invisible Man.
I was literally going to ask: is Invisible Man the parody of the Invisible Thief?
I'm pretty sure they're very closely related because if you look at The Invisible Thief, it is a very similar concept, and they even use a very similar special effects trick where they use a pseudo green screen and a lot of meticulous editing to make this man look invisible. And then they use that classic thing that every filmmaker learns in their first year of college: get a string and pull stuff with it. No one will ever know the difference. So I and that's the last film. I the last two films didn't have a lot about themselves, more so the history of the medium that's important.
Okay.
But with that, Scyther, you've seen the majority of films to this period.
What I will say
What
about it
do you
is,
think?
what do I think? Well, first and foremost, this is the period where we'll see, of course, longer length films, which 20 minutes seem to be the real max here for these films for the
That's like a
longer
four
ones.
reeler.
Yeah, and I feel like as they're getting longer, we'll see a lot more going on other than just them doing things that they're like, okay, or doing things that people do already, or regular shit. It feels like there's actually being like some heart being put into them now. Well, of course, there's still heart in the shorter ones too, but there's some real more dedication going on here. This is
This
the
is real filmmaking.
this is where we'll see the actual stuff that we kind of know now, but still primitive. Go on. No diss to things that first popped out, though, of course.
Yeah, I think this is that's a great way to put it. Is that this is kind of this is the birth of filmmaking as we understand it. This is where we get characters and drama and emotion seeing all that come into fruition. Whereas I would call the 1890s experiments with film, the early 1900s is the birth of filmmaking.
Hmm. What is curious here is that the whole damn family and whole damn dog and below, these are not in the public domain. Interesting.
No, they are. I just didn't copy
Oh.
the column. My bad. Yeah,
I'm like,
everything's still in the public domain. I just uh, going to be honest, I was very tired because that was my mandatory overtime
so
day.
what I'm hearing is I can make myself my own version of a whole damn family and a whole damn dog. Bet.
You could make your any version of any of these films. Anyone could do anything with these. I know a lot of people, especially in the electro swing community, for some reason, will take old footage that's in the public domain and use it for music videos because why not? It's not going to cost you anything.
Hmm. So wow, we have not even hit the hour marker yet. We still have time. We have plenty of time here. But the next thing on our agenda is the games, which will be also a very short segment because in the 1900s, very early between 1900 and 1909, we only had three games invented in this time frame. Or excuse me, released or invented. In this case, Monopoly, Rook, and Turing.
Yes, Monopoly is probably the biggest one we could talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Here's
oh,
the
to
Wikipedia
close out
page.
my thoughts on film, by the way.
Gotcha.
I still think a lot of these films are highly inaccessible and very difficult to actually experience and actually enjoy. Though I will say they're easier to enjoy, especially Méliès's work, and especially more so The Great Train Robbery. I think that is very enjoyable even to a modern audience, though you might have to put it on 1.5 times speed because the pacing is old movie pacing.
Now, I will not be promising this at all, and there's no guarantee I will do it. I'm a busy man myself these days with college, but I will gather all these films, download them, and put them up into free areas where people can download them and watch them. Of course, only public domain movies, obviously, only public domain.
Yeah, please, we do not condone piracy, Twitch.
Yeah.
Please.
Um, I'll see what I can do about that. We'll see. It'll be interesting to have a little archive of these public domain movies, of course.
Yes. I I think yeah, I think having that will be interesting. I will at some point when I get the document more refined, frankly. I will be putting the Excel sheet that I've been putting all the films on here. So if any of you want to look at more detail or get a text title of any films that we mentioned, in the next couple of weeks there should be something that to actually look at.
Lovely.
But let's talk about some board games. Mainly, the big one, Monopoly, came out in 1904. Oh no, the patent came out and publishing began in 1906.
Lovely. So what I can tell here with our boy Monopoly, I'm sorry, the playing time is between 60 minutes and 375? No fucking way people play that damn long, right?
I was gonna say there's no fucking way that it takes that short because I've played Monopoly games that last like 6 hours.
Like what the fuck is this shit? Okay. So I guess we should talk about the side here, Monopoly, the fast dealing property trading game, and this the at least on the site. You know what? Hold on. I'll screen share to all you people, but I will have to, of course, remove my bookmarks. You don't need to see my bookmarks.
That's fair. Yeah, Monopoly is an interesting game because it is very much an old timey board game, which means it takes forever, is really slow, and is very outwardly preaching to you.
Let us hope that hold on. I'm gonna turn
Why did
off
the
the
stream get
slideshow.
taken down?
Oh wait, what? The stream?
No, I was joking.
About to say. No. What taken down was it should have been it's been the slideshow I turned off. Cursed Curator on Twitch, and we will now go over to Monopoly. Please tell me it worked. Lovely. Um, yeah, I'm on Wikipedia. I do some editing here sometimes.
I do editing on Wikipedia.
Yeah, the London edition with the gander at this looks very British. I don't. It looks no different from my I've seen in America.
It's very much the classic Monopoly. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see, I believe, the original version somewhere. Never mind. Uh, I think. What do you think of Monopoly? Actually, do you enjoy it?
I mean, it's a fun game with some fucking family and friends and like some drinking. I mean, as a kid, I was more of a Candyland guy, more Candyland. Monopoly was just a game where people would always exclude me from. I could go into a side story about how I was fucking bullied. That would take too damn long. But
Yeah. I don't know why, but for some reason, whenever I play Monopoly, I always end up becoming the slumlord, and I don't know how to feel about that.
I was always forced to be in shoe. Hate the fucking shoe. I mean, the fucking car.
If we ever need something to do in the background, I feel like one of these episodes we're gonna play Monopoly. Maybe when we talk about Hollywood, we should play Monopoly in the background as some
I forgot. We freaking have what's it called? The tabletop simulator. We should do that one of these days on stream.
Yes, that'd be fun. Yeah, if we ever inevitably, I feel like my research is going to catch up with me, and I may need a week to gather more data. And in that case, we can play some very old board games.
Lovely. It'll. Oh, I'm actually excited to do that now. We can start from back. Well, of course, last stream we talked about those games, and I imagine they're on the tabletop simulator. So we'll play it in order. We should have done it last time when we got the idea,
No,
but you know.
it's fine. What do you mean? They don't have Chinese checkers. That's highly guarded.
So, we see here is our designer is Charles Darrow, who is a long dead, I imagine. Let's take a gander at him. Oh
I assume
yes,
everyone we're talking about has been dead for at least 50 years.
yeah, he's been dead since '67. Bucks County. That's a very important place. I'm not talking about it though. It's a little controversial.
Oh no.
It's based on the
Let's not get
Landslord
canceled
game.
on episode 2, please.
It's based off this game, which interesting. Landlord's game. I wonder why this one did not take off, unlike the other one it did.
It's probably, from what I can tell, it's a lot preachier.
Seems like it. 2004 episode of PBS Detective.
I love that. Yeah,
Okay.
what else came out in the I think Rook, right? Came out, and a game called Touring.
Yeah, Rook and Torg have both been pulled up as well. I like the little logo here.
That looks like it should be the sign for a tobacco shop.
It really should be. I'm intrigued if this is still being published today. Yeah, it is. It's published by Hasbro, so
Okay, Hasbro. Winning Move Games USA. That is a title for a company.
I am curious as to because I never heard of Rook, but clearly it's still around today. So,
I've heard of it. It's kind of a crappy card game that the kids play with,
oh, it's from those
with extended family.
it's from those times, the Puritan time. No wonder I didn't fuck with it. Okay,
What is with the Puritans who making a lot of board games?
it's a good question. I'm not sure. Let me see the chat real fast. Nothing really going on there. Lovely. Grace
Yeah,
chose the name Rook.
shocking.
Okay, so you're telling me that some girl said, "Hey yo, let's go with Rook," and then Rook it was.
Interesting.
I like that. It's
And the
a
last game is
touring.
yeah, yes, touring, and that just looks like one of those travel games you kind of mentioned a little very briefly in the
Wait,
last episode.
this might have inspired our favorite game, by the way, Oz, the Oregon Trail. I hope so, at very least. Can we die in touring?
Can you die of dysentery?
The original Wally Door edition was a small red box, 100 cards. The game is updated to blah blah blah. Oh, it's still not active. Eh, interesting. I wonder why.
Not every game can live on forever, and I especially feel like from this time, the majority there's probably way more games that we just don't know about simply because they fell into obscurity.
Yeah, there are probably plenty. It seems like a bootleg version of Monopoly almost.
It does seem very similar, but it seems like the theming is different.
Yeah, the theme seems to be that you're traveling around and you're just going to different places. I imagine if you go places that are worth more, you'll get more points. Maybe I'm not sure. I'm guessing.
Get them tourism points.
And capitalism, but for tourism.
We're gonna see some weird board games as we move on. We'll probably focus less on the board games when there's actually video games to talk about, but
Yeah,
they'll be there.
I feel like if this was it came out today, it would probably hit more. If they showed like a damn fucking Bugatti on the fucking front damn thing.
There's just some rapper in it.
I think it would appeal to the modern audience a bit more. I imagine. Hold on, I'm gonna switch it our window capture. There we go.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
man, this is a this is a stream. Um,
Yeah.
we're still not even an hour
I
in.
it's fine. It goes as long as it needs to go. And this is kind of I didn't want to include the 1910s because frankly, it would have been hell for you to try and watch all the things that you did watch plus 3-hour films by Griffith.
Yeah. So I believe we have to do maybe a quick test on our own here. I thought we're gonna do some Mario Kart, I guess. Um,
That's going to be a funny title. Talking about the early 1900s, also Mario Kart.
all right. I'm gonna share my thing over to you, and we'll send it over. The problem here for us is that I have no clue how loud it's gonna be.
Should I be scared? Let me I can just
Perhaps.
do that.
I have to boot up Dolphin because that's how we're going to be doing this. And I have to figure out where my
With
controller is.
a legally acquired ROM, Nintendo.
Yes, this is very legal, legal, as they say, or something like that.
For a sec.
And I guess you should maybe mute me and mute the like not mute the stream, but like go to the stream and see how loud it'll be when we get this all sorted out. I guess.
Yes. Fair
Uh,
enough.
let me play the game, and we'll see.
No, that's not the password.
Oh, let me mute myself real fast so I can grab the thumb thing.
All right. Yes, I understand that. Yeah. I guess what we're guess what we're playing as well. I can I talk about the future with this series because I know it's not a lot for a normal channel, but we got I think 25 views on the first episode and the 19 on Twitch, which is wild because no one watches anything on Twitch. I just appreciate it. If any of you guys, anyone has any corrections, any comments, any suggestions, please give them to us because we want to improve. And frankly, I don't know as much as I'd like, especially in this era. Once we get to the 20s, I'll know a lot more, but right now I know very little. And I don't want to say something that's wrong and have it not be accounted for because I do want to make corrections and I do want to be better about ensuring transparency.
Here, this will be a very scuffed stream. I can already tell.
Oh, fine.
We'll call it game capture. Civic window, and we're gonna go with Dolphin. Yeah, guys, this is a very much guaranteed legal copy. What are you talking about?
Can't
Except,
wait for the day that we get any amount of followers and Nintendo sends that DMCA.
interesting. I forgot the audio capture would not capture the music because I don't have it in my nested seeds.
Yeah, maybe that's for the best, considering who we're dealing with.
Let me fucking see if I can add it in here real quick.
That's fair.
It's probably important. Output capture, I believe it's called. We'll see. No, what was
Yeah.
that? Yep, I should have set this up earlier. Probably should have.
It's fine. This is impromptu because, like I said, this is a weird era because it's kind of too short for its own thing, but it's way too long to include with the 1910s and
True.
with the early 1890s.
It's speaker symbol. So you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna assume it's you.
We are playing with dangerous waters.
Might have the wrong audio. We don't want that.
Oh no!
All right, add that in. Okay, there we go. And now I'm gonna do a thing. I'm about to do a whole thing. So you're so impressed or not? Oh no, it's
Thank you,
already in.
viewers.
You know what you should do is mute me and see if the stream has the audio playing.
One moment. It does.
Cool. Is it too? You know what? I'm gonna lower it by just a bit. Just a bit.
Yeah, that's fair, honestly.
All right. Is that good?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Cool.
It's pretty much where it needs to be. Well, one thing I did want to talk about while we do this, just to kind of fill it with relevant topics. Are there any years or decades or kind of genres? What are you looking forward to as we go through this? Because I know we're both looking forward to video games and tabletops.
Well, just for films in general, which will be something I'm very excited for, is the '60s. The '60s is a genre, not genre, but a year that I watched a whole lot with my great grandmother.
That is fair. I remember distinctly, like, he frankly wasn't old enough to be from that era, but my grandfather always used to watch, sometimes on occasion, actually, it wasn't all the time, used to watch those old, like, Cinevault, those, like, old movie channels
Yeah.
that just played classic Hollywood and stuff. And the more I get into the 30s, the more I'm like, I get this nostalgic feeling, like, oh, this is the kind of movie I used to watch with him. Uh, though personally, I'm looking forward to the artsy 70s. Also looking forward to the 70s because video games
Gotcha. Ooh, smooth.
and tabletop gaming, in the role playing fashion, that is.
Solo race. It'll be a very fun time. Where's my girl day? Oh, I'm so stupid. We're not playing it modded. I need to.
That's fine.
Oh yeah, we can play it normally.
Yeah. The I think the 70s will be fun. I'm really looking forward to the 90s just because I like that era in media. In general, I think it's probably one of the best decades for media.
I'm thinking mushroom cup.
Sounds good. It's classic. So, as well, I'm also just looking forward to when we get out of this old ragtime classical. We didn't mention it. Music in the early 1900s is very much the same as the 1890s. There are some very minute differences, but in my opinion, they are almost the same.
Gotcha.
The only difference is that we have a bit better preservation, but that's just it comes with the territory, you know.
I'm gonna pause real fast just because I see that the stream is very clipped out a bit because how I did this was very awkward and that's my fault.
At least we'll
Yeah,
at least we'll have it all set up.
because there was some stuff that was cut out from the stream. Like, why is that so cut out?
Oh, the resolution. That is. There
Yeah.
we go.
All right, now we get back in.
Uh, there we go.
Yeah, it looks very scuffed. I had to fix that.
Yeah, I think in general, what I'm looking forward to most is just anything but this era because it all goes uphill from here. I don't think there's many people who will argue that. I mean, you said some things are better, obviously, from
Yeah.
this period, but I think largely we can all agree that, things have gotten better.
You're gonna use your star.
I am trying to. Oh, there we go. The button was arguing with me.
So, me being me, I have my Mario Kart modded, but I forgot to properly turn it on. So,
Hey, don't worry. Some guy nearly got sued by Nintendo for that much. So maybe it was a happy coincidence. You're also way better at Mario Kart than I am. I'm gonna get years from now when two people know who we are, they will roast us for our Mario Kart gameplay.
Oh no!
Yeah. No, it's a strange turn for the stream, but it is also. I'm also gonna be checking the chat as well, so if anything comes up.
Gotcha.
Kind of Q&A stuff. I think that'll be a nice segment after the main portions. But like I was saying, music is there's not much. Once we get to the 1910s, it's going to get a little more interesting since I believe we're going to get the birth of jazz.
I am very concerned
I cucked you.
about what's it called? There's a period of movies that will come up eventually, and they're going to be something that we might have to gloss over. Maybe.
Are you talking about all the racism?
Oh no 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 no! Not the racism. The erotic films.
Yeah, if I think we'll have to kind of gloss over that. It'll probably get mentioned in passing.
If you're curious, there is one thing that the Nazis covered a few times.
Oh no.
They covered some erotic films. That's a thing.
Which just feels very out of character.
They were showing their Aryanness and how better they had mid tits. I said it.
YouTube's gonna love this stream.
It's okay. It's like 50 minutes in, we'll be good.
But they don't check after the first 5 minutes.
Yep. So
Uh,
I only got fucked over because I got blue shelled. So that's my whole thing there.
yeah,
Fuck
that
off.
was wild. Yeah, I think there's a couple things we'll have to gloss over. It's going to be really difficult once we get into the era I'm in. Like I said, the 30s. I know I keep mentioning it's a big era. It's a very influential time for film. But as well, there's a lot of bigotry and a lot of, frankly, terribleness from that era, and I just, it's gonna be painful.
Ooh.
I will force you to watch The Littlest Rebel. You have to watch at least one Shirley Temple film because we have all grown up with those stupid advertisements.
I hate him so much.
Shirley Temple now in color.
I would have hated it so much if it wasn't just her. I would never anything else that popped up.
What, you're saying you would have bought the Clark Gable collection?
Yes.
You don't even know who Clark Gable is.
Yeah, damn right I don't. But I know who Shirley Temple is.
I
Did she serve the fucking,
Hollywood's
did she serve in Congress at one point? Or no, she was an ambassador or some shit.
something. Yeah, she was in politics. I believe she served in in the some kind of office in California.
Where's about how I
Which is a
keep
very
getting blue shelled?
you just, it's not your day.
Yoink. Fuck off, Toad. Koopa. Be damned if I would lose fucking Koopa.
We talked about it in private, but what is your taste in film? Would you say, like, what are the things you like, and what are the things that you just can't stand?
What I like a lot is a truly good horror film. What I hate the most, I despise with every fiber of my being. Every single cell screams in agony. Fucking musicals. Hate them shits. So fucking much.
I'm so sorry, but I am going to put every Best Picture winner on our list as an essential, and a couple of them are musicals.
Oh god.
So that's gonna be fun. Personally, unfortunately, I wish I could say I wasn't into it, but I love art film. Art house is just something different. Like I said, I don't even like things necessarily because they're always great. I like them because they're different,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to admit that I'm a hipster in that way. Because again, at least I admit it.
That is true.
I do hate some overly pretentious art film. We see a lot of that in the early 20s or late 20s, I should say, actually, of people getting way too overconfident with their political messaging. Oh goodness, we'll get there when we get there. But as for like actual genres, because art house isn't really a genre; it's just more a style. I do love me some schlock. I love the kind of low budget B movies. I love terrible movies as well. I do love everything. I try to watch everything. Though I would say my least favorite genre, oddly enough, is the comedy. I have trouble finding them many actual comedies very funny.
So the one thing I have realized, oh, you fucking butt slut.
Oh,
Well, at least I wasn't the one that went down.
hey. At least now we're even. You were saying?
I was saying something. I'm not trying to fall at the show by the fucking butt slut who threw a shit at me. I can't wait to see the fucking like the little blue banner beneath our YouTube video where it says this video mentions autism because I mentioned a bunch of times at the very early start of the video.
We- We've mentioned a lot of things that I'm sure are going to get us the blue banner.
The thing that's very important to talk about is how film will be affected by the next 4 years. Okay, did not actually like touch like the actual fucking politics, but I think films are gonna go undergo a complete social change from what we have right now.
Because of World War One, I assume, is what
Yes.
you're referring to. Yeah. So a big thing we'll see in the 1910s, and I'll cover it a little bit more, is that we will see a complete absence of French film, for obvious reasons. German film is also going to disappear off the face of the planet. A couple of them do exist before this, but of course they're a little preoccupied.
They're so a little busy. Don't mind it. They'll be back.
Yeah, yeah, no, they'll be back. They'll have a huge golden age in the 20s, and then immediately fall into obscurity uh, for the rest of history. Actually, um, I think Italian film gets hit hard because in the very early 1910s, before World War One, Italian film was actually one of the epicenters of the film world because of films like Cabiria or oh, I forget the name, but there's a chariot, a film with a chariot scene. I'll find it when we get there, but it was a very famous film. And there's also an adaptation of Dante's Inferno that I will harass you into watching, Cypher, because it's Dante's Inferno. Uh, there's a weird fact about Dante's Inferno in the 1910s. There are two Italian films, both made in the same year by two different companies, both Italian, and they are completely unrelated. One of them is comically low budget and is like 10 minutes, and the other one's like 2 hours and is much
Jeez.
higher budget. Uh, Both are worth watching if you're into old movies, which I don't know many people who were into that period, understandably. Though, yeah, the 1910s is going to be wild, and is not only going to affect the film of the time, but the events of World War One, yes, are going to affect film, right? World War One is going to create some of the first anti-war movements in art, and it's also going to really affect how people see violence.
I'm gonna be
Uh,
very I'm gonna be very hyped up to watch World War II centric movies
that's going to be interesting.
from the good side, right?
Let's not. Honestly, I really don't want to watch the fascist films.
From the good side, right? Like, which is the good side? Uh,
I presume you mean the Allies. In World War One,
Nine?
that would be a much more ominous statement.
I said the word nine, and he's like, hmm?
Anyways,
Me being German.
yes. Uh, yeah, World War Two is going to be interesting because in World War One, we don't actually see a lot of that patriotism that you would associate with the World Wars.
Yeah.
You actually see it a lot if you watch, and I'm going to make you watch it, not only because it's Best Picture, because it is one of the best films of all time, All Quiet on the Western Front.
Mm.
Uh, you're going to see a lot of the I don't know. You're going to see a lot of the anti-war, anti-patriotism sentiments that were very common during the period.
You know, we in the Clappersphere talk a lot about the Western Front.
We don't need to get into that.
We're not gonna get into it, but we talk about it a lot. That's what mentioned that.
Yes, I I am excited for all the future episodes. I think they're all going to be incredibly interesting, and I am very interested to see your thoughts on things, especially when we start getting to old music and just all the other mediums.
Be very interesting. I was gonna comment about the Clappersphere. We
Oh no.
didn't, but we did. He here to question it. What is that? You'll know one day. What are you insane?
When the mask slips on stream.
You know, maybe my own religion. I'm kidding. Or am I?
Hey, do you guys want to join a cult?
I think Twitch might get us for that one.
understandably, I'm going to side with Twitch on this one.
Which cups do you thinking?
Banana.
Banana.
It's a retro cup.
It is a good cup, though. It is a really good cup.
Yeah. Also, I need. This is going to be crucial and is actually going to determine if we get canceled or not.
Yeah.
Nintendo, Sony, or Sega?
Mmm. Come on, man. You're making me
We are referring before the year 2000.
Okay. Well, you made it a bit easier for me there. Okay.
Especially since Sega doesn't make consoles anymore.
So, growing up, I was a really big Nintendo kid because that's all I had. Outside of the damn V Smile, which will be covered eventually. I'm demanding it.
It's gonna be on the list of demands, like you know how actors have their contracts and they're like, I will not do these things. One of yours is gonna be, we will talk about the V Smile.
Yes, I love the damn V Smile. I'm a big ass nerd for the V Smile.
Which is a very interesting thing to be a nerd for.
So I guess in this case for me, Nintendo, just because I'm a Nintendo kid.
Yeah.
Of course, Sega was still, Sega still went hard, mind you, but Sony was not really on my radar yet. I was actually unaware what Sony even was as a child until I got PlayStation.
That is fair. As I've gone through retro gaming, I have found, and my childhood, I have always been and will probably always be a Sony kid. I love Sony consoles. If you were to ask me what my favorite console from any generation, of any category, if Sony made a console, it's probably going to be that one, right? What's your favorite fifth gen? PS1, right? Then PS2, then portable, and all those things. I just love their consoles, and as a kid, it was amazing being able to play like DVDs and CDs from your video game console. You
Yeah.
basically just didn't need a DVR, which was obviously not very relevant now, but back in the day was a huge bonus.
My first ever PlayStation console, or rather Sony console, was PlayStation 3. It was really good for me.
That's fair. Yeah, that was a weird era, but that was what I grew up with. That and the PS2,
Mind you,
because everyone had a PS2 whether they wanted it or not.
yeah, mind you, when I was younger, so it went V Smile, Wii, and then our boy PlayStation 3.
That is a very weird.
It's a very
I
weird
dig it
lineup. It's a very weird
Yeah,
lineup.
no, it's very out of left field. I'd be like, my childhood consoles were, Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, Atari 2600.
This is my,
Well, we will have to play some Odyssey games now that I mentioned the really old era.
my aunt was really against me playing video games for one reason or another. Because she raised me for a good long time, and and it took a while, but she ultimately sided with my cousin, who said it's not that big of a deal, and they tricked me. And I'm like, because I went to his house, I played some Call of Duty, and I thought the V Smile had Call of Duty. It had no Call of Duty.
Could you imagine? It's like Frogger learns math, Mario Paint, Call of Duty.
And my first super video game that I can remember very happily was Call of Duty World at War. Very good game. It was I believe it's the game that really set the standard for Call of Duties going forward.
My first video game was a Frogger ripoff that was originally supposed to be a Frogger game called Zapper: One Wicked Cricket. And I found out there's a bunch of people, for one reason or another, whose first video game was Zapper.
Now, mind you, I probably played games before Call of Duty, but I can't remember them. And mind you, I don't really count those little bootleg handhelds that you get from with.
Oh, the LCDs, like the Tiger Electronics ones.
Yeah, I never really counted those because I don't remember those damn games names anyway.
I can't wait to. I'll have to talk about those when we get there because they're interesting. Obviously, they take about 5 seconds to play.
Yeah.
And there is actually an emulator for them. I don't know if you knew that.
I was unaware of those. Did you know one of the hardest emulators to install ever is the V-Smile emulator?
I can see that. It's really obscure and excuse me, obscure emulators can be very difficult.
It's such a pain in
Trust
the
me, I've had to
ass.
deal with a Atari Jaguar emulator.
It was one of the few times where I actually heard that it was harder to install the vSmile emulator on Linux than it was on Windows. I'm like, what?
Because usually, uh, we're big we're big Linux nerds, by the way. Sorry to all of you. Uh, oh, I hate this map. But yeah, usually most emulators, for those who don't know, are actually more optimized for Linux for a couple of reasons. One of the more practical ones is that Android is essentially built on top of Linux. And so if you want your emulator to work good on Android, which you do because it's obviously going to be much lower powered, so you want to make sure it's optimized, then it's going to be also very well optimized for Linux. And also, many emulator nerds are just on Linux anyways because they're all a bunch of basement dwelling people.
Yep, pretty much.
Oh, the Wombo comboed.
My
So
real,
that is shocking.
mhm. My biggest issue with Linux, just for now, is the multiplayer games. They're such a pain in the ass. Still,
A lot of them still work. Like obviously, I'm running a Linux right now, um, and this is working because of magic.
yeah.
But generally speaking, yeah, it is a pain to get certain games just are what we refer to as borked. Like they just will not work no matter what you do. Like Halo, the Master Chief Collection, and Infinite, anything made by Microsoft basically is just not going to work.
Oh, in fairness, from what I understand, for a bit, the Halo Master Chief Collection did work. It's just after the multiplayer component actually got included, that's when it didn't work anymore.
The single player still works. I play it on occasion. I really enjoy it, and you can still make lobbies, but it just will not let you connect to public lobbies because the anti cheat cannot nuzzle its way into your operating system.
Sad,
Because Linux is very stingy with kernel access,
as it should be. As it should be.
as it should be. So I thought originally that being on a Linux machine would be a hindrance to my playing of old video games. Uh, since I mentioned last episode, that's what I started with is the history of video games. But actually, it's been really good because you can play old Windows games on Linux with shocking ease.
The one thing that'll be very important later, for me at very least, is visual novels for Linux, because guess what? Most visual novels don't, that are older, don't work no more on Windows at all. But on Linux, it still do.
Yeah, because Wine basically lets you emulate old Windows programs.
Yup. Man, there's so
Uh,
many games that are going to die very soon. When the what's it called, the 32-bit thing happens. Was it the crash or something
yeah,
like that?
something because of dates and times. Isn't that 2065 or something?
Yes.
I'm sure by then someone will have a workaround, basically something that you can install on your operating system that tricks it into thinking it's a different date.
Yeah. There's a lot of visual novels that are not made for 64-bit. I don't know why they're not just default that, but no, it's all 32-bit for the most part.
Yeah. I don't think we actually talked about the visual novels and why we were bringing it up. That's your current field of research you're doing because,
Yes.
frankly, I don't care about visual novels. Not because they're bad, just because I don't do a lot of reading.
Yeah, so I have a whole thing about visual novels. I played them since very much a preteen, and I should not have been playing them because my first ever one was a pornographic one. That's a
Yay, rants!
oh no no no! It was not rants to be my first one. It was actually School Days.
Oh God, you had poor taste. I'm sorry.
You see, I have a hard stance about that visual novel because one, the protagonist is
Ooh, that was
not
a
as
joke.
bad as people say he is. It's very situational to where the girl was more bad than he was, and I stand on
Another
that.
hill that Scyther will die on.
I stand on that. I stand on that. I have a whole thing, a whole document on how I define a visual novel, and I'll show it off one day.
Yeah, when we get to visual novels coming into existence, we can talk about it because it is way more in depth and way more of a process trying to define visual novels than I thought it would be.
Yes, and my definition is still not perfect. There's still a ton of visual novels I've never played, and there's tons more categories and things I never considered. So that'll be a fun things to adjust over time.
Yeah, um, I certainly certainly enjoy like a lot of the theorizing about media as much as watching it because at the end of the day we are talking about history and there's a lot of debate and to this day. I mean, we talked about the debate over what counts as sci-fi
Yep,
because of the mechanical butcher.
and you'll see a lot of debates involving visual novels once we get around there. You'll see me ripping my hair out to try to decide on what is a visual novel and what is not.
What's just an adventure game.
Yeah, fortunately, at least the VNDB, the Visual Novel Database, kind of tells us which one is a adventure game or not. But as it goes on, it'll get very loosey goosey because there's a major fucking fight about Phoenix Wright. That is a whole fucking fight because
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
so Phoenix Wright is a visual novel. I don't care what VNDB says. It's a visual novel. It at its core, it's a visual novel, and I stand on that.
I love how we started with 1900s films and we've ended on Phoenix, right? I think after this race we can wrap it up. Oh, crap, wrong button.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah. I'm really, yeah, I know I've reiterated. God, I'm excited.
It is very exciting times.
It's also because I've spent the last, like, 2 years researching media history.
Yeah, you get to show off this
And
knowledge now. It's great.
yeah, and I finally feel it coming to fruition. Originally, I wanted to do a YouTube series, but it was taking forever. I worked on that original video for months, and it still may never come out because a lot of the things I said in that video have just been reiterated in this show. And I think that's probably for the best. This is an easier way to discuss things, a more free form, and much easier for me to make corrections than a YouTube video.
Yeah. Um, if you want to watch this on YouTube, it'll be out probably middle of the night, Eastern time.
It'll be out soon. It won't be that long at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
you won't have to wait weeks for it.
I was very confused on how to do it initially, but it's pretty simple once I got around to it.
Yeah. I wonder once we get to because next episode we are getting into proper silent feature film. I wonder how you will handle silent film because I know for a lot of people it's very difficult to get into silent film.
Well, I don't have a problem with silent films. I watched a few when I was little, but
That's fair.
my real issue is I need at least some visual simulation when there's plenty. It's with silent film. It's my other issue is that I do like sound, but there's no sound in silent film.
There's usually so interesting thing about silent films they weren't actually watched in silence because as you can imagine sitting in the theater that would be very awkward.
This couldn't call.
What yeah, just sitting there like, hey, stop coughing, you're ruining the movie. Um, or the picture, as they would say at that time. Instead, there was a live band who would play music in relation to what's happening in the film. So, for instance, they would have a bunch of special effects. You could actually see recreations of how these would be done. So, they would still have sound effects. So, like, let's say in a Charlie Chaplin movie, a gun goes off, some guy would make a gun sound effect.
Ooh.
So if you're watching, some people argue that if you watch silent movies with background music, you're technically watching it in an inauthentic way. But generally, if you look at the actual history, that is the authentic way to watch a silent movie. The only unfortunate thing is that a lot of these original audio recording, or sorry, not the recordings, the sheet music was lost. And the sheet music was actually given to the theaters when they bought the film to screen.
Oof.
But we'll get there when we get there. And when we talk about feature films, it's going to be a lot more prevalent, and especially when we talk about remade scores. But yep, Scyther beat me again. I am not the best at Mario Kart, as I'm sure everyone will be telling us in the comments.
Ooh, Mario Kart is a very fun time. Let me switch out the thing there so we can turn it off. We don't need the game's audio anymore. Turn that out. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And boom.
Uh, to everyone who has watched, thank you, thank you, thank you. We really do appreciate you. It means the most to us. If you want to do all the social media stuff, that's just the bonus.
Yep.
Uh, and we will see you next week, where we're going to be talking about very exciting things in the history of media.
See you guys next time.